In your own words, describe diabetes.
Well, it's something I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. As a nurse, I never thought I would do a great job handling a chronic, what you would call illness. Now, I don't feel ill at all. In fact, I feel better than I've felt in years. I never thought I'd be able to handle a chronic illness, but I am doing fabulous with it. In fact, my husband tells me I'm OCD with it. So I think just knowing that I have to deal with it for the rest of my life is what really keeps me going, and, you know.
How did you get diagnosed?
Well, I was at a health fair. We would call it Dance with Heart. It was at the Cancer Center. It was a community health and wellness. And at the end of the evening, I thought, I'm going to have myself tested. Well, my blood sugar was 200-something after having a little bit of fruit and some, maybe a diet soft drink or whatever. And so, I kind of laughed it off that night and said, oh, it's from this fruit I just ate. I was in denial. So the next morning, I thought, I haven't felt well for about a year. I've been tired. I probably ought to go get this checked. I called our endocrinologist that morning and got in to see him that day, had a hemoglobin A1C that was 9, and he immediately started me on medication I've been on for 4 years now. I lost 50 pounds. I've gained some of that back, and that's part of dealing with the chronic illness, is trying to maintain everything you can. I still maintain a hemoglobin A1C of 5. And so it was really being a part of a health fair that
caught your attention,
brought about my diagnosis.
Yeah.
And just sitting there that night thinking about it, you always read, know your numbers, know your numbers. Well, I didn't know my numbers before then. And obviously with a hemoglobin A1C of 9, I'd had it for a while.
So what do you think causes diabetes?
Well, I think a lifestyle causes type 2 diabetes. I think if you have a strong family history, of course, that leads to it. And I have all the above. I was overweight. Both sets of my grandparents had diabetes. They were not obese by any means, but they had diabetes. My mother has diabetes. And I had those very large babies, even though at the time I was not overweight. My babies were 8, 10, and 11 pounds. And so that should have been my first sign. I should have probably made some changes at that time. But how we are. We get busy, we get into denial, and we just put other things before ourselves.
What happened when you went home after you had the diagnosis confirmed? What did your family have to say?
Do you know, my family was very supportive. In fact, I take Byetta, so that's an injection that I take twice a day, and they all learned to give an injection. They all know how to do finger sticks. We all changed our lifestyle because of me, the way we eat. We all started getting more exercise. Now, I was the only obese one of the bunch, but that certainly has caused pause for everybody in my family. I have 2 children, and so they're...
So the diagnosis was a positive outcome for your family.
It was, really, and I, it was positive for me. I probably would not have made lifestyle changes had I not been at that health fair.
So what motivated you? Fear?
I think fear and, being around patients who have diabetes, and you see loss of limb, you see cardiac disease, you see all of this, and I thought, oh my gosh, that could be me someday. I didn't want that to happen to me. It was early enough that I could still do something about it. And, eyesight, you can lose your eyesight, you can lose your kidneys. There's so many things that can happen that I didn't want to have any of that happen to me. I think I told you earlier I want to work until I'm 70. I've got to be healthy to be able to do that.
What do you think are the risk factors for diabetes, type 2 diabetes?
Well, I think obesity, lack of exercise, strong family history, large babies. Those are the, some of the risk factors or some of the warning signs that you need to take heed and, act upon. I do question, though, you keep hearing a lot about obesity, and, I have obese friends who don't have diabetes. And why does, you're always questioning, why did it happen to me and it didn't happen to somebody else? And, I think there is some shame with having diabetes. I can remember the first time that I was telling my boss, I said, I've been diagnosed with diabetes, and I remember feeling like, my name's Valerie DeCamp and I'm an alcoholic. I remember it feeling like that. And I think, why should I be ashamed of that? But I was. But I've been concerned enough about myself to do something about it. I just didn't brush it under the rug. And I've talked about it before. I've talked about how that health fair really changed things for me. It changed my life. So.
What do you think a person needs to do to actually manage the diabetes well?
Well, you need to visit your physician on a regular basis, at least every 3 to 6 months. You have to check your finger stick every morning, and after you have 2 hours after you have a meal. You have to follow your medication regime if you're on medications, diet and exercise, and those are hard things to do. You have to be really motivated. There are times I don't feel like exercising, and I don't. But
what kind of exercise do you do?
I walk. When I turned 50, which was a year and a half ago, I decided I was going to do my first 5K, so I ran in my first 5K. That was difficult for me. It hurt. I will just tell you, it hurt, but I really felt like that was something I wanted to do. And just like everything else, your weight loss will come and go. I think the motivation to exercise probably changes over time. If I could tell, anybody anything, is do it for yourself. Take some time and do something for yourself, because I was busy raising kids and, doing a lot of things, and I really didn't pay attention to myself.
Kind of sneaks up on you.
It really does.
Tell me about your family. What roles do they play in giving you support?
My family will look at what we eat. They're not ones to say, "Oh, it's okay. You go ahead and eat this." Or bring a lot of sweets into the house, even though you can have that as a diabetic. They're not forbidden. We're trying to be more active as a family together. Now, my children are grown now. I've got one halfway around the world and one who's beginning her senior year in college, so they're not around a lot. But I have to say my husband is very supportive. He knows what medications I take, and, they're my rock.
Mm-hmm. What about your co-workers? Do they provide support to you?
They do, but I'm not sure everybody has a great understanding of diabetes, and it's almost, I want to say to them, like, exercise or be careful what you eat, but they don't, right now they don't have the same consequences, and their numbers are good, and so it has really, I don't think it has any meaning to them until it really hits you personally.
Sounds more like you're thinking more about their condition than they are thinking about your condition.
Right, I would say that. Everybody's been supportive of me, and everybody understands, and I don't want to make it sound that way, but I think it's something that people don't think about all the time.
Are there challenges in your everyday work for you related to the disease?
I think some of the challenges are trying to work exercise into someone who's addicted to work, and making sure I make the time for myself to do that. You get invited to a lot of lunches or breakfast, and so you have a lot of temptations in front of you, and I think that is very difficult at times.
Other times when people think about chronic disease, for instance, hypertension, you just take medicine once a day generally. But diabetes is 24/7, 365 days a year.
Forever.
Forever.
You don't get it and then somebody tell you, oh, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You have to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
But I think I heard you say earlier that you feel good.
I feel wonderful. And I didn't know I felt bad until I felt better. If that makes any sense
Mm-hmm.
to you. But
Mm-hmm.
I can remember maybe after a month of being on medication and changing my diet, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how horrible
Mm-hmm.
that I felt, how
Mm-hmm.
tired I was.
Mm-hmm.
And it really made a difference.
Did you have any problems with depression? Or did you earlier?
Not that I'm aware of. I probably this last year I had some depression. My son left for the Navy, and
That's another
and
story.
that's a whole different reason. But I have not. But I can certainly see how people could if they don't have a good support system, and financially if they can't afford to do some of the things they need to do. I can see that very easily happening, especially if you've got complications from it. Right now I don't have any complications. I get my eye exam once a year. I go to the doctor every 3 months. I do all of those things that you're supposed to do. I'm afraid of it, I guess. 'Cause
It sounds like the fear is maybe moving
It's a positive
in
thing.
directions. Yeah. Right now, one of our big concerns is prevention and preventing people from ever having to be facing what you yourself are facing. What kinds of things do you think that people might do in their families to prevent diabetes?
Well, okay, yeah. Let's wait and see if that goes away.
They're working on the elevator.
I felt it underneath my feet.
No control. No control.
It gets hot under these lights. Is sweat showing yet? I'm usually cold. And
Warming you up there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So the question again, what ways do you think people in local families, what can they do to prevent diabetes?
well, first of all, eat a healthy diet. Watch your carbohydrates. Eat plenty of vegetables and fruits. Exercise. Visit the doctor at least once a year. Know your numbers. Know your family history. Know if you're at risk for getting diabetes. And I don't know that, you may still do all of the right things and you still may get diabetes. So, if that's the right term, get diabetes.
Yeah. I think so. A lot of people in this county don't have jobs, don't have health insurance. How important do you think that all is in preventing diabetes?
Well, it's expensive to go to the doctor once a year. It's expensive to buy the right types of foods. And I think that makes a huge difference. I think if people had more access, even if they had access to a gym where they didn't have to pay a lot of money to do that, or just support group, or even some of them don't even have cars to get to the places that they need to get to. I'm fortunate I have a wonderful job with excellent benefits, but I know there are folks out there that have all of that still ignore everything about themselves, just like I did until 4 years ago.
So how do we make people aware? How do we make the average person on the street in Scioto County aware?
I don't know. I think maybe it takes people like me and you to be able to stand up and say, hey, it's not too late. You can do something about it. Don't let it go this far. I think, long term we're going to have to look at what foods are in the school systems, what we can do about obesity at a younger age we're going to have to really start young and making our children aware of, diabetes
Yeah.
and what it takes, because that's when it'll begin to change, I think.
What do you think we could do in the schools?
I know some of the schools have already moved towards not having soda in their cafeterias, and we probably could look at vending machines and offering healthy options, and maybe some prevention sessions with the children at the school age. I think we'll have to show them what some of the long-term effects are of diabetes.
Workplace. So you work here.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you think that not just this workplace, but this is probably one of the larger employers in the county. What can they do to promote health?
Well,
Or prevent diabetes?
I think SOMC does an excellent job already. We've got an employee health department. We provide reduced benefits for those that live a healthy lifestyle. We have a life center, and we have off-site life centers. Sorry about that. We have the Healthy Partners program here at SOMC that you earn Healthy Partner points, and that's how you get your reduction on your health insurance. I think, again, just like other places, we have the opportunity to look at the foods that we serve and the portions that we serve. You can't, control that in people, but at least you could offer it and have it available. And, that's the bad thing about eating is, it's not like, you have to have food to live. You don't have to have a drink of alcohol to live, or you don't have to have a smoke on a cigarette to live, but you do have to eat to live. And so I think that is probably one of the difficult things about trying to diet and watch your diet.
Is are they doing things here in the cafeteria?
There are. We are beginning to offer healthy choices in the cafeteria. We have a salad bar every day. There are sugar-free foods and low-fat foods available. We still have regular colas and diet colas both, but we do have options for folks, and we're making progress. I still think there's a way to go with it.
So let me ask you a little different question. Because the health insurance covers not just the employee, but also the family. Do you do anything with families?
Well, our Healthy Partner program does involve spouses, although we've changed our plan that if your spouse has insurance, they're not necessarily included on our health plan. So, but we do. There are things offered for family members for them to lead a healthy lifestyle. Same thing with the Life Center membership. They can become a member, as a part of my benefit.
If you were going to change just even a single thing in the community to really help prevent diabetes, what might that be?
I think I would do something about taking the shame away from it. It's kind of like stepping out in the open and don't be I guess that's really not preventing, but at least it is bringing it out in the open. And then the second thing I would do is start working in the school system to make some changes
let me come
there.
back to how would you take the shame? How would you go about doing that?
Yeah, that's really easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah, what would be some things that might help?
Well, I think people being able to talk about it and some of the issues that are involved with it, and not being afraid to admit that you have it.
Do people talk about diabetes?
Not really. It's not a disease full of glory. Like if I get a cancer diagnosis and suddenly, I'm going to the chemotherapy and radiation, and I'm cured. It's a hero story, but you don't necessarily hear all of those stories about diabetes.
So
And
there's no heroes in diabetes.
there aren't.
Yeah.
There really aren't.
So how can we create heroes? How can we create I mean, seriously, I mean, if you survive, if you're a cancer survivor, you're a star, right?
Right, you are. You're a rock star
Uh-huh.
if you're a cancer survivor.
So what about a diabetes survivor?
We probably should. Now, I don't know if you've ever done the diabetes walk in Columbus.
No, I have not.
The Step Out for Diabetes. I started doing that every year now. They do have something like the purple T-shirt. They do give you a red cap if you're diabetes. But again, that just points you out as having diabetes. But not that I'm living with it every day and that I'm trying to do what I can to minimize the complications. So maybe we do. Maybe we do need to have a, I have diabetes and I'm going to survive it kind of campaign going on here. But
maybe we need to market or do some things different than what we have done.
yeah.
I think it's very interesting. Now, do you belong to other groups besides being a workaholic? do you have time to belong or participate in other groups? Or?
The only thing I help out with is the American Diabetes Step Out walk, and I do help them raise money with their mailing. I don't go to a diabetes support group, and I'm not, other than the education that we provide here, I'm not aware that there's an ongoing support group locally.
Do you belong to any women's groups or other groups in the community, just community groups in general?
I belong to my women, my church group, and help out there.
Is there any in your church? In your church family, is there any discussion about diabetes?
There is, because there are a lot of people with diabetes. I'm probably the youngest one in the group that has diabetes, but I'm amazed at what they're telling me their fasting blood sugars are, and that their physicians will say, well, that's okay, because I don't want mine over 100 ever. And if it is, I am totally worried about it. But, my mother with diabetes, she's happy if hers is 140 to 180 every morning. Now, I wouldn't be satisfied with that at all. And, maybe there's an opportunity in that area, too, to,
Does your church group do anything special to support?
I've done, health fairs, and I've done
You're
that.
You're the one that does it.
Yeah. We're a very small church,
Okay.
so, I may be the one that would organize that thing. I do flu shots, every year. I do a lot of prevention things. We'll do some inserts in the bulletin, those kind of things. But,
Okay, that really is all the questions I had, but just before we conclude, I wondered if there's any stories or anything you wanted to share, particularly about living with diabetes, your family, or community, or prevention.
Well, I think, my story was taking the time to be tested and then responding when the results weren't so good. Because I could have brushed that off. I could have shoved it under the rug and chalked it up to eating too many strawberries that night. And it's hard to say where I would be 4 years later, what kind of complications or things would I be suffering, or would I have had a major event that would have, I may have had a heart attack in the meantime, or any of those things. So I guess that's my story. My story is that even showing up at a health fair can help us detect folks with diabetes.
And if you had a chance to tell the nurses that work here at this hospital something about diabetes, what would you say to them?
I would say we can't be out there trying to talk to our patients about diabetes when we aren't doing the things personally to prevent it, and take the time for yourself.
Do you think, because I'm a nurse, do you think nurses know how to work with patients around diabetes?
Not like they should. I think everybody, unless you're dealing with diabetes every day, you don't have that level of expertise that's really needed. Plenty of opportunities. Our nurses give excellent care, don't get me wrong, but our focus is general. You know, we're generalists.
Mm-hmm.
And
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you very much.